Today is Monday, the 22nd of February 2021, and we're close to a very important day in the Buddha Sasana, which is Magha Puja Day. And this is a very significant event that on this day the Buddha laid down teaching the principles of the practice that all of the Buddhas lay down. It's the heart of Buddhism, the heart of the teachings of all Buddhas. So just like our physical heart within our bodies, it's a very important organ that's necessary. And this teaching, it's a very significant teaching about the fundamentals of the practice. And it's something that every single Buddha teaches. All of them lay down these principles, which can be gathered together into three principles, which is the abandoning of all evil, the giving rise to skillfulness and making that complete and full, and bringing the mind to purity. And this is the teachings of all Buddhas. Every single Buddha teaches this. And all of the Buddhas in the future will lay down this teaching as well in this way, so that we are able to come to study this heart of the teachings of every single Buddha. It shows that we have a lot of merit. Because there are many humans who have been born who aren't able to meet with these teachings. They don't get to study them or know them. And there are also many who do listen to them, but they don't show much of an interest in them. But for us to hear these teachings and then have the sincerity to practice and put those into practice, it shows that we have developed a lot of parami, either from past lives or from this life. And maybe 30 or 40 years ago we became interested in this practice, and we can see that that time, 30, 40 years ago, we can refer to that as a previous life. It's normal that having been born into this world, we are deluded. We are lost in the sense of self. We become distracted and amused by the sense pleasures of this world. And we unknowingly do many unskillful things. But we can also, or people who are like this, also do many meritorious things as well, or do some meritorious things following the traditions of their society. But for people to come to practice sitting in meditation, it's only very, very few who are able to do this. Because of this enticement and amusement in the sense pleasures of the world. And so therefore, for us to be interested in this heart of the teachings of the Buddha, it shows that we already have much merit. We've already developed some degree of parami. And so we have this sincerity, and we also have these ideals or these high aspirations of our practice. And the very highest of those is Nibbana. So the abandoning of all harmful acts, the giving rise and completion of skillfulness, and bringing the mind to purity. This is the path that takes us to Nibbana. So that we're able to abandon harmful acts through our body and speech. This requires sila, it's virtue. And sila is within the noble path. And this becomes a foundation for our heart. And when we have the sila, this virtue, we also have kindness and compassion there within us. And we have the intention and the sincerity to abandon harmful acts through our body and through our speech. And on a more subtle level, we abandon these through our mind as well, the harmful acts of mind. And so in total, we do this through all of them, through body, speech, and mind. And to abandon that which arises through body and speech, we need sila, so the 5 precepts, for instance. We have a heart that has kindness and compassion, that knows how to give, to sacrifice, and this is normal for us. And when we do this habitually, then we're able to abandon this evil or this harmfulness to the highest degree. We can abandon selfishness. We abandon selfishness on the coarse level, on a medium level, and on the subtle level. So just like when we come together to live in a society, everyone needs to do their own part in abandoning their selfishness, so that that society is able to be in a state of peace, and people can live together in harmony. And we don't fight with each other. We don't discriminate and separate out into us and them, but rather we have harmony, and this harmony brings happiness within a society. So just like for the monks doing the morning chanting, the evening chanting, helping out with the various duties and works around the monastery, this is conducive to concord in the community. And all of us also individually need to take care of our practice that will work to free us from suffering. We maintain the standards of the monastery. We care for the vinaya, for our monastic code, study the Patimokkha, and then put that into practice. And through doing this, the society that we live in can be peaceful and cool. And it's the same in the workplace of lay people, that if there is harmony there, a sense of concord between the boss and the workers, that each person does their duties, they help out each other working together for a common goal. They're all sacrificing and giving up their selfishness. When this happens, then there is kindness and compassion in that workplace. And we try to not speak any words that come through a mind of anger or a heart of ill will, actions or speech that will cause harm. We refrain from those. And in our present society, in this day and age, we can make merit quite easily, but we can also do harmful deeds very quickly because communication technology is so rapid, so fast. And it's possible for us to create a lot of bad feelings amongst many people through our communication in these platforms. Maybe we make a comment and we don't specify exactly who that comment is about, but it can still bring a lot of hurtful feelings to many, many people, and it can get spread all over the world. And when we do this, we are breaking our precepts, and harmful acts, papa, has arisen already, because we're harming others through our speech. And it's easy for this to spread very quickly all over the world. And when people know about this word or this form of communication, then anger or ill will can arise very quickly within them. And they too then experience papa, this wrongdoing or harmful acts within their hearts. But when we have a mind of peace, a mind that is calm, this can also help to make the minds of others calm as well. When our minds are at ease, they're in a cool state, then we're able to make the hearts of those around us at ease and cool as well. And it's also the same with the agitated mind, the mind that's very stirred up. For people who don't know their own hearts, it's easy for them to stir up other people as well. So therefore, we need to gain an understanding of this training, of this practice, the heart and the principles of Buddhism. And firstly, this is abandoning harmful acts. And this is very broad. What this covers is many, many different things. But if we're going to summarize it, then it's the harmful acts of our body, speech, and mind. So when we look with mindfulness, we can ask, well, what is this papa? How does it arise? How does harm come about? And so if we speak in any way that is harsh, that is coarse, that is harmful or not beneficial, then this is papa arising already. And also comes through taking the lives of other beings or bringing about any difficulty, any kind of burden on other beings. And this is something that we shouldn't do. And also the harmful acts that arise within our minds can include things like focusing on other people's faults, and also giving rise to a mind that wishes to harm. So the Buddha taught us to abandon all of these things, to develop generosity, to be someone who likes to give, someone who has a heart of kindness and compassion. And initially we give our material things, we give the requisites to others. But we can also give our forgiveness. We can give our respect. When we gain merit, we can share that with others. We can give our humility. And for those who give, they experience this ease within their own hearts. And when they have this ease internally, it shows that they have sila. The fact that we are able to give shows that we have kindness and compassion. And as we carry on doing this, then the harmful acts that we do decrease steadily. But as for the mental papa, these demerit or evil that arises in the heart, this can come through our thoughts, and initially we can't control these. Maybe there'll be harmful thoughts. There'll be thoughts of wanting to seek revenge, wanting to cause hurt to others. And we can reduce these through the practice, through the effort that we put into abandoning this papa internally. Any that has arisen, we work to abandon it. Any that is unarisen, we put in the effort for it not to arise, and this is right effort. So it's the right effort of abandoning these unskillful states. And we also have right intention as well. And this falls within the noble path that the Buddha taught. So when we don't harm others, then we also practice that through our right livelihood as well. That through our occupations, we don't inflict harm or damage upon any beings. And even though we may have to compete with others, that's normal, but we do it through mindfulness and wisdom. And we do it while established in sila, Dhamma, within virtue and the precepts. And this too keeps us within this noble path. So all of the actions that we make within our hearts are for the purpose of bringing about peace. And when we do this, this is a form of merit and skillfulness that arises internally. And initially we may make merit with the wish to get something in return, and that's normal. If we do this merit making on a very high level, then we do it for the purpose of abandoning the sense of self. But in the beginning, we still have that sense of self, so don't worry about it. We slowly go about reducing our attachment to this. But initially, we will still have that attachment. Maybe we practice and we have the feeling that I'm better than others, I'm a better practitioner than others. When we do merit, when we keep our precepts, then we have this feeling of I am good. But don't worry about that. It's very normal for that to come up. We just carry on practicing, developing mindfulness, developing samadhi, trying to bring up skillful acts as much as we can. And even though the thoughts, I am better than others, may come up, that thought won't really cause any damage. But rather we just focus on bringing up our inspiration. And these thoughts of I am good may help to bring up inspiration. That's something that we do initially. And we should feel good about the practice that we do if we can keep the standards of the monastery and practice well. Now, this is something that the noble beings praise. Caring for the precepts, being devoted to this practice, it really is something good. And also we need to try to be the foremost in something. This is true for both the monks and the laity. The laity have faith, and you can be the foremost in something, the foremost chanter, the foremost giver, the foremost in being charitable, the foremost in listening to the Dhamma and having respect for the Dhamma. And this is how we cultivate our paramis, spiritual maturity. And we carry on doing this, carry on developing merit in this way until the mind reaches a state of brightness, until we're able to bring the skillfulness to completion. And that it's able to come to a state of completion is due to our practice. That we're able to gain knowledge is due to the wisdom that comes up. And if we have wisdom, then we see the Dhamma. And what is the Dhamma? Essentially, it's inconstancy, it's stress, it's not self, anicca, dukkha, anatta. This is the Dhamma. And when we see this, then we see the Buddha. Seeing the Buddha means that we see anicca, dukkha, anatta, that we see that all physicality and mentality is inconstant, is unsatisfactory, is not self. And this shows that we have seen the Dhamma, that we've attained to the Dhamma. And we attain to the Dhamma, then really we attain to this anicca, dukkha, anatta. And by doing that, we don't attach to any physicality or mentality. But in the beginning, we need to try. We need to put in our efforts first in order to be able to see the Dhamma. Because this Dhamma is something that's already opened and revealed. And when we cultivate wisdom so that manifests within us, then we will see this truth. But for wisdom to be able to manifest, it needs a basis of samadhi and mindfulness. And when we have this samadhi, then there'll be internal joy, this great sense of inner satisfaction. But When the mind is absorbed within that state, it's not able to see the Dhamma, but it's when it retracts from that and it's able to perceive that all physical and mental phenomena are anicca, dukkha, anatta, and then it will see the Dhamma. And really, it just requires us seeing this breath, for instance, the breath come and go, arise and cease. So when we breathe in, we can tell ourselves, this isn't me. When we breathe out, we tell ourselves, this isn't me. And if we see this clearly, then this is vipassana. And when we have this very clear mindfulness over the breath, then clear insight can arise. And if this happens, then sila, samadhi, and panya, they all gather together and we gain a really bright and clear knowledge. We see distinctly that there is no true me or mine. So we've already studied and know intellectually that this body is composed of cells. Initially it was just 2 cells, and then they expand or they proliferate very quickly. It goes from 2 to 4, and then to 8, to 16, to 32, to 64, 128. This happens very quickly. And then to 256. And every part of this body is made of cells. But the mind comes in and it attaches to each and every cell as me. But all of these cells have their own lifespan. When they are born, they require the food that our body digests for their survival. That we take in oxygen, we take in water, and then the blood carries this and other nutriments to the various cells in the body so that they can grow. And then when they start to deteriorate, then new cells are born. But we don't see this happening because it happens on such a subtle level. But the number of cells that die in the space of one day is enormous. However, new cells come up in their place. And if they aren't born in time, these new cells, then we start seeing the old age of the body clearly. If these cells start to degenerate a lot, then pain arises. And we need to take medication to look after that. But if the medication doesn't work so well, then the body can deteriorate very quickly. And at that point, we'll quite easily be able to see the inconstancy of the body. But really, this body, all physicality and mentality, is always inconstant already. It never stays still. It's always in a state of flux. These cells are constantly deteriorating. All we have to do is to look at our breath to see this, that the breath comes in, it stays for just a very short time, and then it goes. And if we didn't breathe in just that, then none of the cells in the body would be able to survive. All of them would have to die. That if we didn't take in any new oxygen for 5 minutes, then this body will die. And so it happens very quickly. But we don't see that because there is this continuity of the breath, that it comes and goes. We have the in-breath and we have the out-breath that comes right after that. And it's this continuity which obstructs our view of inconstancy, that we're not able to see it. And when things coagulate, come together, then we take that as a self. But if we separate that thing out, we'll see that there's no true self there within it. That all of the organs within the body, they are comprised of cells. When we separate those cells out, we'll see that they are not self. We'll see them as being empty. Or we can look at how we have to change our posture all the time. And that if we sit for a long time in meditation, we don't move, then we start to feel very distinctly the suffering of this body. And that's why we always need to be changing, to be moving. If we see this clearly, then wisdom can arise. But sati, our mindfulness, our samadhi, the collectedness of mind, is something that's very important. And something that we do need to train in. And we carry on training until skillfulness becomes complete. And when it is complete, then wisdom arises. Our minds are dark because of the presence of delusion within them, because they are so caught up in me and mine. But for brightness to appear within the heart, it requires us to gain knowledge. And all of us wish for a mind that's pure, that's bright. Those that come to ordain or wish to see the Dhamma, that we may want for this, we may wonder what it's like, what sotapanna is like. We want to get to this state. But sotapannas are those who abandon wrong view and give rise to right views. They don't have this sense of me or them. And if we always have a sense of self that comes up continuously, then this becomes a continuous cause of suffering. And everything that we do for me, for my own sake. And so it's important in the practice for us to abandon this self, to abandon selfishness. And so therefore in the beginning, however, we still have attachment to a self, and we need to take that self to abandon unskillful acts. And then we come to give rise to skillfulness until it becomes complete. And even though we haven't yet abandoned the sense of self, we carry on practicing in this way. We sit in meditation and bring up a lot of mindfulness. And when we have effort, then skillfulness arises. For any skillful states that are yet to arise, we bring those up. But the maintaining of skillfulness is something that is quite difficult. The skillful states that have arisen, to maintain those is tough, just like with samadhi. That if we can get into a state of kanaka samadhi, or upajjhara samadhi, or appana samadhi, this is something that arises, stays for a bit, and then ceases. It's not easy to bring this up again once it's arisen. But it's even more difficult for us to maintain that state. But we shouldn't worry about that. We just try to carry on developing it, try to carry on giving rise to these states of samadhi. And even though it's difficult, we have this path of practice that will lead us to success. So we have this sense of self in our practice, but we carry on going until we're able to reach internal peace and stillness. And through that, we see the Dhamma. And so we see the Dhamma of samadhi, we gain the Dhamma of panya, of clear knowing. And then we're able here to put things down. And this is where we can put down the feeling of self, because we've seen the Dhamma. We've clearly seen Nibbana within our own hearts. And here is where the mind turns bright and pure. And for those who are devoted to this practice, it is something that we can do. It's not beyond our abilities. So we should bring up this highest aspiration to reach this within this present life, to get to Nibbana in this life. That is something that we can do. And to really be firm in our ideals, to not allow things to shake us out of them, but to be sincere in this way. And this ideology also requires a methodology, and that is the path of sila, samadhi, and panya, of morality, of collectedness of mind, and of wisdom. And for monks, we maybe have standards of practice that are stricter than those of lay people. But for all of us, we walk this path of sila, samadhi, and panya that take us to abandoning harmful deeds, to giving rise to skillfulness, to making the mind bright and pure. And this is the heart of Buddhism, the heart of all the teachings of all Buddhas that the Buddha taught on Magha Puja Day. So he also taught us to be restrained, to be cautious, for monks to be restrained within the Patimokkha, for lay people to be restrained within the 5 or 8 precepts. And we use these to train our minds to become peaceful, to gather together into samadhi. And we are people who are devoted towards this inner peace. Anywhere we go, we don't talk much. We try to speak little. We try to be restrained. We try to always be bringing up a calm mind. And try to be mindful and contemplate that each day and each night is passing away very quickly. These things are inconstant. And many, many Buddhas, all of the Buddhas, they taught these teachings, these principles of the Dhamma. And for us, we've been stuck in the cycle of birth and death for a very long time now. But now we've had the good fortune to meet with the teachings of the Buddha in this life. And this shows that we have a lot of merit, that we've developed a lot of skillfulness already. So I give my anumodana, I rejoice in all of your sincerity, that you have these high ideals. And this sincerity, this devotion to seeing the Dhamma, and it's not something that's too difficult for us to do. We just try to be very, very mindful. Always be keeping this mindfulness there within our hearts, making our hearts firm within the satipatthanas. Whether we're standing, walking, sitting, lying down, whether we're speaking, whether we're listening, whether we're eating, we always have mindfulness there. And seeing the body as just the body. And this seeing the body as just the body is the first stage that will take us to knowing the Dhamma, to seeing with clarity that this body is just a collection of elements, that it needs to break apart. There's no true self there within it. So may all of you know the Dhamma, may all of you attain to the Dhamma, may all of you see the Dhamma, may you set your hearts on this.